Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to the Mental Wellness Wake Up Show, a weekly podcast where growth minded, creative people come to learn best practices from both spirituality and psychology that create lasting well being. I am your host, mental wellness expert, improvised acting teacher, therapist, and coach, Dawn McMillan. Let's get to it. What I want to talk about today are feelings. Feelings, we all have them. And one of the struggles that we have in our culture right now is what is the role of our feelings? We have a long history of certain philosophies being considered anti feelings. I personally respond very much to the Buddhist philosophy and to Stoicism. And both of those are misunderstood and accused of wanting people to not have their feelings, to suppress their feelings, to demonize their feelings. And I understand how that reputation has gotten perpetuated because there is a sense that we don't want to be ruled by our feelings. And it's a short step from don't be ruled by your feelings to don't have them. If you read Marcus Aurelius or even Seneca, you'll have them talking about. So it makes sense that we all believe, or many of us believe, that there are philosophies that are demonizing certain feelings. And then add to that, it's 2022 in the United States for me. And we continue to have this toxic positivity culture, which is that there's one feeling family that's okay, and that's happiness. You should feel happy and joyful all of the time. And if you are not, you're doing something wrong. So we have this really corrupt vision of what feelings are and what they're for. On the one hand, we have this strong cultural drive to feel good all of the time. And on the other hand, we have this cultural drive to, well, pretty much not have anything affect you. That's what people think Buddhism and Stoicism is saying. It's like be unaffected by anything that is around you. I think there's a more nuanced view of both the positivity quotient, the happiness stuff, and there's a more nuanced view to the spiritual point of view, the Buddhism and the Stoicism and like philosophies. And it really lands in that place, that Goldilocks place, that golden mean, that moderation place of all feelings are valid. No feelings should be masters. All feelings are valid. No feelings should be masters. All feelings are information. No feeling should be the boss of you. So in this Carla McLaren book, she has a wonderful way of framing the emotions, and it's kind of woo-woo. So let me just tell you that right up. It's more on the woo-woo side than the psychology side. And as you know, I love to balance both of those. But with Carla McLaren, she uses the elements as an analogy: earth, wind, fire, and water. And so she talks about the flow of earth energy as it relates to your body, the flow of air or wind energy as it relates to the intellect, or what some people would say mind, and the flow of fire energy as it relates to visioning, or what some people might call spirit. Those of you who are familiar with the tarot will recognize those as the four suits of the tarot. So this is an ancient the human experience. In Chinese medicine, there's a fifth element that is metal. I'm not an expert on that, and I don't remember what I was taught on that. I just bring that up to say that, there are different systems that relate to the elements, focus or framing of earth, wind, fire, and water, and that those energies are meant to flow. They're not meant to arise and get stuck somewhere in our body system. They're meant to rise. They're meant to flow, to flow. And somehow the way that we get in trouble is we have one bossy element. If you are me, my intellect for the longest time has been the boss. So I am flooded with wind energy. And then maybe, wind and fire get along pretty well. So lots of intellectualizing, lots of visioning, lots of living from the neck up. And meanwhile, that earth energy, that grounded body energy, or that fluid flowing, sometimes sacred feminine emotional energy is underserved or blocked. Working on all of that. For other people, it might be different. I have someone that I love very much who's just very earth energy, very on their body. Sometimes forgets to think things through. very gut centered. So, in Carla's language, these energies are meant to flow. So, I want to talk a little bit about one section of her book, which I love. I love the whole thing. She gives some great examples of what to do with all this stuff. But in chapter 6, it's called Avoidance, Addiction, and Awakening, Understanding the Need for Distractions. So, this is up for me this week because of just conversations that I have had that have been difficult for me, and me noticing my desire to avoid that person or that situation or distract myself from it by just focusing on something else. And I'm not saying that those strategies aren't helpful. They are helpful, and there is a place for them, and they can become a tool of our own oppression and suppression when they are misused. Earth, wind, fire, and water. And our multiple intelligences won't be properly moderated. We'll be buffeted and battered by ungovernable flows of thought, emotion, sensation, and visions, rather than moving gracefully upon each of their currents and eddies. When we don't stand at the center of ourselves, nearly every part of us falls into trouble of some kind. Many of us learn to press on in the face of such trouble. We find a way to cope, not flourish, not soar, not enjoy and embrace, just flat out cope. Most of us turn to some form of dissociative practice, whether it's avoidance of the trouble, distraction from the trouble, or addiction to a substance that separates us from the trouble. Most of us, instead of learning to navigate our flows, find a way to live beside our dreams, beyond our emotions, in spite of our thoughts, away from our visions, and out of our bodies. I often say that our entire culture is having an out-of-body experience, but it's more correct to say that there's no one at the center of ourselves to guide or comfort us. Therefore, we cling to any form of relief we can find. Avoidance, distraction, and addiction are absolutely commonplace in our culture because imbalance is absolutely commonplace in our psyches. I think that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And, I'm not speaking this from the ball of light that I have evolved into because I've integrated myself so perfectly. I'm speaking from someone who is constantly in a state of integration. There's so many different ways that we are looking at ourselves as made up of these different elements, these different parts, and that our work here is to integrate all of them, to allow them to flow. And when any part of us is repressed or suppressed, criticized, or not allowed, we end up in addiction and distraction and avoidance. In the language of acceptance and commitment therapy, that's going to be fusion, right? Where we're so involved with our thoughts or our feelings, our earth, our wind, or our fire, that there's no one minding the store. That center of us, that integrated self, is not present, is not resourced, or is not in charge of what's happening. So we're buffeted by the passing thought. We're controlled by the arising sensation in our bodies. We are so identified with the arousal, the pain, the suffering, the thought, the distressing thought. We're so inundated and fused with it that we can't make whole choices. Or we're so separated from parts of ourselves that those energies are bound up in us and they come out in really unhealthy ways. So if we're sticking with the system that says we are earth, wind, fire, and water, body, heart, brain, and vision, then How do we get those energies to flow? How do we get them to flow? And this is going to be really familiar territory. It's to have contact with the present moment. Notice what is arising without clinging, without aligning, agreeing, resisting, or reacting. And then the flow will complete itself. So if there is a bodily sensation that is arising, you don't necessarily have to do anything with or about it. People who sit in meditation, certain kinds of meditation, will know that there's this instruction to just sit. Like, well, what if my nose itches? Just sit. And that urge to scratch your nose will arise. And you can notice, hey, what does it feel like? Well, I'm noticing the itch in my nose. I am noticing the desire for my hand to reach up and scratch my nose. I'm noticing the thought in my brain, you should scratch your nose. I'm noticing the feeling of wanting to panic because I will feel like I have to scratch my nose and I'm not doing it, right? So we allow this energy to flow and we notice what is present without aligning, agreeing, resisting, or reacting. Radical acceptance. And the thought, the feeling, the sensation, the vision, the earth, the wind, the fire, the water will complete itself. In addiction medicine, we talk about urge surfing. And you can try it out on something low stakes, right? An urge to eat a cookie. And if you get present to it, and by getting present, you are noticing. Noticing is my favorite word. Some people use observe, allow, but noticing, it's like riding that wave. The urge comes, it intensifies, and then at a certain point, it crests the top of the wave and starts to come down the other side, and then disappears back into the nothingness that it was. If you let it, if you let it. So if you can notice without clinging, without grasping, without pushing, without rejecting, without aligning, agreeing, resisting, or reacting, it comes and it goes. The energy arises and the energy flows. So the invitation here is to back up to what's happening before you do the addictive behavior, the numbing out behavior. What happens before that? What happens before the compulsion? What part of you has arisen for attention? And can you notice what that part of you is asking for? Can you allow that energy to rise and flow? Can you allow it to complete? But the notion is that you allow that energy to complete itself. So once a stress hormone arises, you can't turn it off. It has to complete. It doesn't go anywhere. It's not like you can't undo it. You can't break it apart. It has to complete. So one example that the Nagoski sisters give in their burnout book is, to actually shake it out. And that works for all four of the elements, actually. If you've got something arising in your body, in your earth element, you can do ecstatic dance, or you can literally shake it out. It works for emotions. And then even for the heady stuff, for the visioning, for intellectualizing, because it's an artificial construct to have the idea that these things arise separately. We're not actually parts. I don't know, we're like light. We're a particle and a wave. We're a function. We're a conglomeration. We are parts and we are whole, and we are parts and we are whole, and we are parts and we are whole. We are both parts and whole. So it's rare that you have a thought without a sensation. It's rare that you have a sensation without a feeling. It's rare that you have a thought, a sensation, and a feeling without it tapping into that visioning part of you. For those of you who believe in a spirit or a soul, that part of you. They are all one, masquerading as parts. So if you allow these impulses to complete themselves in some safe way, then you can begin to unwind yourself from the need to addict or distract. So, my invitation to you is to return to or begin the practice of noticing. Noticing what is not only brings you back to the present moment, and in case we forget, and we often do, there is nothing but the present moment. The past and the future are abstractions you are creating inside your mind. You can only experience the now, and noticing brings you back to the now. And bringing yourself back to the now allows the energies that are arising within you to flow. And when they flow, they complete. So you might be thinking about, what about some of these stronger emotions? Yeah, allowing them to flow and complete does not mean punching someone. It can be noticing when that anger or that rage or that overwhelming impulse to use or abuse or whatever the compulsive nature is, when it arises, I promise you, you are having a thought and you are having a sensation in your body. I promise you, you are. And so when it does, if you investigate, where is the impulse to, where do I feel in my body? Where in my body is that impulse to scream? Where is it? How big is it? If it had a shape, what shape would it be? If it had a temperature, what temperature is it? What's the texture? Does it have edges? Is it sharp? Okay, now what is it? Where is it? Where do I feel it in my body? What color is it? What is the name of the sensation? Oh, like when I noticed it a second ago, it felt sharp and hot, and now it feels throbbing and itchy. It's weird, but when you notice without aligning or agreeing or resisting or reacting, stop it, Dawn. I know, I'm repetitive. You then allow those sensations to complete, because what you will notice as you are noticing is that what we think of as this overwhelming impulse is actually some thoughts, words, and pictures in your head, some bodily sensations that are constantly changing. It's only when we allow ourselves to fuse with them that they don't get to morph and change. Our fusing with them, our making them important and mandatory, start to lock them in to block the flow. Our noticing, I'm noticing I'm having the thought that I really want to punch so and so in the face. Where is that in my body? Oh, I'm feeling a clenching in the muscles of my stomach, tightness in my throat, rapid heartbeat, and a quivering in my right hand. Now what am I noticing? Oh, I'm noticing the thought that it's weird that my right hand is quivering. And now I'm noticing that my right hand isn't quivering, like that kind of thing. So, can you allow the sensations of your body, the emotions that you experience, the feelings, the water element, the thoughts, the intellectualizing, the imagining, the visioning? Can you choose to allow it to flow? And I'd love to invite you to let it happen and be easier. Let it be ease. Let it come with ease. Let the parts of you that know how play in the notion of flow. And the biggest tool that I want to share with you in regards to that is noticing. Noticing without judgment and allowing the flow. So I hope this is helpful. That's kind of a lot, huh? It's kind of a lot. And you got it. You got this. You are a wise, amazing, beautiful being with so much courage and so many inner resources. And this was all a long winded way of inviting you to allow those resources to flow so that the you at the center of your being is the one in charge, not your body, not your feelings, not your intellectualizing, not your imagination, but you, who is all of those things and none of those things. All right. Thank you for listening. And allow me, please, to have the privilege and the honor of telling you that you, glorious, beautiful, wonderful being that you are, right here, right now, tomorrow and yesterday, are whole, perfect, and complete, just the way you are. Really, you are freaking awesome and worthy and deserving of all good things. Go out there and flow, my friends. Until next time. I am so honored that you share time with me. If you've listened this far, then something here was of value to you. Would you please be a friend of the podcast and share it with at least one other person? The podcast is available on most platforms, including YouTube, and I need your help to get the word out. So please like, subscribe, and share, and a 5-star review on iTunes would be chef's kiss. Thank you so much. See you next time.